considerably their military activities around Kyiv and Chernihiv. And let me tell you, after that statement, within next 12 hours, last night we had 5 blasts on the outskirts of Kyiv, and today morning till now we have heard 5 more blasts. So it looks like somewhere Russia has not really stuck to its promise about Kyiv, whereas in Chernihiv there was no blast, no military activity as Russia promised there. At the same time, when we're talking about this, the offensive from both the sides, attacks and counterattacks, continue in the east of Ukraine, in the area of Mariupol, and even in the southeast of Kharkiv. Nabila.
You are in Kiev, and we understand that there seems to be still significant threat from Russian forces in many parts of the capital city. As much as they say that they do not want to use force, we hear that shelling and some kind of attack is still continues in some of those regions of Kiev. Do we see an impending attack from Russian troops? Are they standing at bay, trying to threaten until, of course, Ukraine agrees to their demands?
Look, Nabila, Russian forces have been on the outskirts of Kyiv, just about 10 to 20 kilometers away for last almost 3 weeks now, as reported by Americans about 3 to 4 weeks back, as per their satellite images. Now, again, American intelligence is pointing out that Russia doesn't plan to pull back. It's not pulling back its forces from and around Kyiv. In fact, they're redeploying and they are reorganizing their forces so that in future they can encircle Kyiv somehow. So this looks, if it is true, it is contrary to what Russians have promised to Ukrainians in this Istanbul conference, which happened yesterday. Besides this, the activities from both the sides are continuing as we are talking in the east and south of Ukraine. Nabila.
Thank you very much, Rajesh. We see that you're in the capital city of Kiev. And remember, so far, Kiev has largely been safe. A lot of activity seems to have resumed. But nonetheless, this impending threat by Russian forces, if at all talks do not go in their favor, one can only imagine how this war could pan out in the days to come. Rajesh bringing us all those factual details from on ground, the capital city of Kiev. Thank you very much, Rajesh, for joining us.
Отойдите, отойдите, отойдите!
माहौल बहुत खराब हो रहा है यहाँ पे बमबारी बहुत पास हो रही है नेबरहुड के जल्दी से गाड़ी में घुसे सत्या A huge disastrous scene over here, a bridge that was blown apart. This is a city absolutely dead. Mariupol is maximum under Russian control.
Ukrainian military truck that was destroyed by our artillery.
State of affairs of the city, craters of the rocket attacks and missile attacks, shards of glasses. Viewers' discretion advised. Visited journalist Satya Rautre in Mariupol. Geeta Mohan for India Today.
Now, parts of the Donetsk region are witnessing fierce fights. India Today is currently en route, one of those areas, Gorlovka, that is in the northern front of Donetsk, where the battle is currently underway. And on the way to Gorlovka, India Today's Geeta Mohan found a Russian tank that was attacked by Ukrainian forces. Here's really what happened.
Fierce fighting is underway in Gorlovka, which is in the northern side of Donetsk. And Alex again over here, Alexander, Satya and Sasha are traveling with us. A very tough road. We had to take a few detours because of security concerns. There's fighting on in some other roads. So Alex, being very careful, has been speaking with the military officials to ensure that we take a safe route. Alex, what's the situation in Gorlovka right now?
Gorlovka was under shelling previous day, and also we have information that today the shelling came to civilian areas. Gorlovka was under control of Donetsk People's Republic for 8 years from the beginning of a conflict, and during all of this time Ukrainians are shelling the civilian area in Gorlovka because their position is very close to that city, and the city have strategical interests.
Right. The city has strategic interests. It's on the north of Donetsk, so a very critical area once again. Sasha is our man with the military contact, so we do not face any problems. There is an absolute need and necessity to have the right people with you to ensure that you have access to these areas. So we'll be reporting from Gorlovka in some time from now. Very difficult route and a detour that we've taken to ensure that we reach there safely. On the way to Gorlovka, Geeta Mohan for India Today. Amid massive shelling and bombardment over here, we found this tank, a Russian tank that was hit by the Ukrainian side. We are in one of the undisclosed locations where these tanks are being brought in. They will be repaired, is what officials and officers over here are saying, and then sent back to the front. So a massive damage being caused by both sides, the Ukrainian forces as also the Russian side, when it comes to the war that is underway between Russia and Ukraine. One such tank over here, but there are many that come for repair over here, and then once repaired, they send back to the front line. With video journalist Satya Rautre, on the way to Gorlovka, Geeta Mohan for India Today.
Now, India Today reports from the epicenter of devastated Mariupol. Once a bustling city of over 500,000 people there, it's now turned into a ghost town. Relentless bombardments still continue by Russian forces that's destroyed the complete port city of Mariupol. In a series of ground reports here from our correspondent Geeta Mohan, let's have a quick look at this report from en route Mariupol, where the bridge that was blown up, in fact, it served as a gateway to several civilians there to moving out safe zones. Kilometers away, vehicles were seen burned down, bloodbath on the streets. Let's have a look.
We are here on the way to Mariupol, a bridge that was blown apart by the Ukrainian side to ensure that the Russian side does not enter Mariupol. So a huge disastrous scene over here. We've seen many of these bridges that were blown up by the Ukrainian side to ensure that Russian advances are stopped. So another bridge over here. We are on our way to Mariupol, but this is what the scenes look like in terms of infrastructure that have been destroyed from the other side to ensure that Mariupol is not taken, a strategic city for both Ukraine and for Russia. With video journalist Satya Rautre, on the way to Mariupol, Geeta Mohan for India Today. Shelling, mortar attacks on the way to Mariupol, trucks that have been burnt. There are charred bodies, graphic visuals, so viewers' discretion over here advised. But certainly a very, very sad scene. Nobody to really come and claim the body or even take the body. No postmortems because Mariupol is under siege. So a difficult time for people over here, even in the bordering areas. This is a sensitive area, so we'll have to move quickly from here, given that there have been shellings and sniper attacks even in this area. With video journalist Satya Rautre, on the way to Mariupol, Geeta Mohan for India Today.
Meanwhile, attacks continue in the port city of Mariupol. While India Today's Geeta Mohan was reporting from the ravaged city, she witnessed blasts very close to the spot, had to move away from that location to take shelter. Despite the shelling, some locals there continued to, of course, stay on high alert, and they, of course, stayed back. Many of them who feel threatened are now showing courage, standing to defend their country. Let's have a look.
You, Mariupol, why? Kyiv, Rus, why not?
Отойдите, отойдите, отойдите!
We had to take cover right now because the explosion was very close. Very, very close.
I'm from откуда вы?
Huh?
Откуда? Ага.
India Today, India.
Индия. Ого, откуда вас?
Okay, so Artyom over here actually asked us to take cover because now we see that the explosions are very, very close to this neighborhood. What is his opinion about?
Какое ваше мнение по поводу вот этой ситуации здесь, военной операции?
Это бред полный. Мы воюем против своих же братьев.
He said we're fighting against our brothers. It's very stupid, and he can't find the words for this.
Okay, and he intends to stay here, not leave?
То есть у вас намерение оставаться здесь, да?
Я буду уезжать в Киев. Лично я, да, родители будут уезжать в Россию.
His parents will leave to Russia and he'll leave to Kyiv.
For Kyiv, okay. Stay safe. Be good out here. Stay safe.
Now, heart-wrenching stories emerging from the city of Mariupol, where casualties have been rising due to repeated attacks. Families who have lost their loved ones are unable to even take bodies to the graveyard. Graves have now been dug in the neighborhood where people have laid their loved ones to rest. Very unfortunate scenes that unfold.
A city under siege, where people have not been able to escape. Loss of lives innumerable. So much so that the heartbreaking story of graves being dug for their loved ones in the very same colony where they're living, just beside the building which houses them, people are now burying their loved ones. That's how difficult life here in Mariupol is for people who either decided to stay back or have not managed to flee the city of Mariupol. With duty journalist Satya Rautre in Mariupol, Geeta Mohan for India Today.
Now, upon reaching Mariupol, India Today found that scenes from the ravaged city was really that of devastation and complete damage. From charred fire stations to residential buildings, Russian attacks have destroyed that port city. Have a look.
This is Mariupol, a city under siege, relentless firing, shelling and bombing. We can hear it through and through. Look at the state of affairs of the city. This is the fire station that has been destroyed in the shelling, in the bombing that took place over here. And the craters of the rocket attacks and missile attacks can be seen. That's the extent of damage. All the cars over here burnt. The buildings across, the windows absolutely shattered. Goes to show the kind and the extent of damage that the missile attacks and the rocket attacks have created over here. The magnitude speaks for itself with what you see behind me. Shattered glasses, broken buildings, destroyed cars. This is a city under siege. Russia wanted to claim the entire area, and it has done so. Now, Mariupol, most part of Mariupol is under Russian control, and to ensure it remains that way, that the firing that you hear is unending. People over here still are living, but only a few are left. Most of them have left the city or are trying to leave the city. There are humanitarian corridors on both sides, but that does not guarantee safety for the lives of people here in Mariupol. With duty journalist Satya Rautre in Mariupol, Geeta Mohan for India Today. Shattered windows, blown up buildings, no electricity, no water yet. People over here are staying with bare minimum. A lot of them have not left the city. We were speaking to a few saying that they do not have the wherewithal. If they don't have money, they don't have the banks working, how would they then leave their homes? Many others do not want to leave their homes. All they have is little kitchenettes that they've made outside and are cooking with wood fire. That's how bad the situation is. There are authorities who bring in water, deliver water from both sides, and then that water is delivered in these parts because they do not have water supply as well. Situation pretty bad over here for people, and if you see the people over here, most of them older lot who cannot leave the city, many who do not want to leave the city. The entire city of Mariupol, which once was a prosperous city, one that had a lot of economic and revenues, today stands absolutely in a shambles. We will be taking you through the city and through the ruins. This is a city that will take a long time to recover, to rebuild. With the journalist Satya Rautre in Mariupol, Geeta Mohan for India Today. Amid constant shelling, this is a city that is absolutely dead, destroyed, and the destruction that you see over here with the buildings and the missile attacks, the rocket attacks that this city of Mariupol has faced, no matter how strategic it is for Russia or for Ukraine, it is going to be very difficult to bring it back to its past glory. Mariupol was a very important city when it comes to being the land bridge between Crimea and Donetsk for Russia, and therefore a crucial city. But we've been told to be very careful. This is an absolutely burnt down building, but there are some other buildings that are still there, and there are fighters. Gun battle that is underway in and around Mariupol. There are snipers as well, and this time around, it's sad that even press has not been spared. So the journalists over here also have to take extra precaution and be careful. The bombings continue, shellings continue, and a city that was once prosperous today is absolutely destroyed. Russia and Ukraine will have to do a lot more than just talks and negotiations. There's a lot of explaining as to why so many people have died when there could have been a way, a route through diplomacy. With video journalist Satya Rautre in Mariupol, Geeta Mohan for India Today. A lot of massive destruction. You can see Ukrainian trucks that were destroyed on the 16th of March, and the destruction continues. The buildings over here completely in a shambles, destroyed. The city is under siege, but this is a port city. It is a city that is crucial. It is one of the most important battles for Russia as well. Mariupol sits right between Crimea and Donetsk. If this is captured fully, this is one of the biggest wins for Putin. This will be one of the biggest wins for Putin if Mariupol is under Russian control. So we'll have to wait and see how this works out. For now, the stretch that we took, it seems like, has completely come under Russian control, but there still are forces on the Ukrainian side fighting to the finish to ensure that they regain control of this port city, which is absolutely critical and crucial given that it faces the Sea of Azov. With video journalist Satya Rautre in Mariupol, Geeta Mohan for India Today.
Now, across the city of Mariupol, Ukrainian forces have placed sea mines, the purpose of which is still unknown. Here's what it really looks like.
These are naval mines, or what they call sea mines, that Ukrainian side has left in many parts of Mariupol. We try to ask as to why are sea mines here in Mariupol. There was no specific answer, but quite a few places you'd find these mines kept or placed. What the purpose is or what the Ukrainians were planning to do with them, still unknown. With video journalist Satya Rautre in Mariupol, Geeta Mohan for India Today.
All right, there we see how the port city of Mariupol is now completely in shambles. This is a very strategic location. Mariupol has been very important for Russia, and to take Mariupol in its control, many of the Russian forces there have been bombarding that port city for over 35 days and counting. Now, this indeed is a port city that's now completely in ruins, under attack. It's been under attack since Feb 24th. This is the at least 5,000 odd people, including children. About 200 children have died in this war so far. This is the number that we get. And over 160,000 residents still are believed to be trapped. Many of them have already fled. About 150,000 people have already managed to flee that port city of Mariupol. For now, we believe there's no power, no food, no water in that port city of Mariupol. And unfortunately, the entire port city, at least 90% of the buildings in Mariupol now, completely destroyed. Now, this is the situation that we see in Mariupol on the 35th day of this war. We see that Russian troops there so far has shown no signs of de-escalation or pulling back from that very strategic port city of Mariupol. Now, like we said, it's been 35 days and counting. Fighting there continues, intense war. Russia there reassessing its war goals. Moscow has now started shifting its troops from the capital city Kyiv and Chernihiv to eastern Ukraine. Russia has said that it would now focus completely on liberating eastern Ukraine's Donbass region. Will Ukraine compromise Donbass for peace? Here's more on that.
「 after a month of intense fighting. Losing hundreds of soldiers, facing global sanctions, Russia is reassessing its goals. Moscow has started withdrawing its troops partially from the area around the capital city of Kyiv and Chernihiv. Ukraine's military claims Russia is shifting their troops to the eastern front. The move comes after Moscow said it would now focus completely on liberating eastern Ukraine's Donbass region.
Считаем безответственной позицию Запада.
The main objective of the first phase of the operation have largely been achieved. Combat potential of Ukrainian armed forces has been substantially degraded, allowing us to focus our main attention and main effects on achieving the primary goal of liberating Donbass.
Now, as talks between Russia and Ukraine delegation are expected to resume today, Ukrainian President Zelensky is wary of Russia's peace pledge. Zelensky has said that signals from the peace talks are positive, but these signals do not silence the explosion of Russian shells. We see no reason to trust the words of certain representatives of the state that continue to fight for our destruction. This is what Zelensky says, while adding that Ukrainians are not naive people. Ukrainians have already learned during these 34 days of invasion and over the past 8 years of this war in Donbass that only a concrete result can be really trusted. This is what Zelensky has said so far. US President Joe Biden, meanwhile, has also struck the same tune, saying that we will see if Russia follows through with what they are suggesting. We're going to continue to keep a close eye on what's going on. This is Biden's view on this war.
Так можна називати позитивними ті сигнали, які ми чуємо з переговорного майданчику. Але ці сигнали не заглушають розриви російських снарядів. Звісно, ми бачимо усі ризики. Звісно, ми не бачимо підстав для довіри словам, що звучать від тих чи інших представників держави, яка продовжує воювати заради нашого знищення. Українці не наївні люди. Українці вже навчилися і за ці 34 дні вторгнення, і за минулі 8 років війни на Донбасі, що довіряти можна лише конкретному результату.
We'll see. I don't read anything into it until I see what their actions are. We'll see if they follow through on what they're suggesting. There are negotiations that have begun today, or not begun, continued today, one in Turkey and others. I had a meeting with the heads of state of our 4 allies in NATO, France, Germany, the United States, and Great Britain. And there seems to be a consensus that let's just see what they have to offer. We'll find out what they do. But in the meantime, we're going to continue to keep strong the sanctions. We're going to continue to provide the Ukrainian military with their capacity to defend themselves. And we're going to continue to keep a close eye on what's going on.
Now, there are signs of breakthrough after delegates from Russia and Ukraine met in Turkey's Istanbul to negotiate on this month-long war. Ukrainian negotiators have now said a meeting between President Volodymyr Zelensky and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin may just soon materialize.
"34 days of bloodshed later, first signs of a thaw." After several unsuccessful rounds of talks between Russia and Ukraine, the two countries have finally made some significant headway in their latest negotiations in Istanbul. Russia has promised to scale down attacks on Ukraine. In a significant concession by Moscow, the Russian military will also cut back military operations in capital city Kyiv and the northern city of Chernihiv. Movement of some Russian troops away from Kyiv is confirmed, but should be viewed only as redeployment, an anonymous US official has told news agency Reuters. The first act of de-escalation by Russia is aimed at increasing trust in talks aimed at ending the conflict.
Due to the fact that the talks about the Treaty on Neutrality and nuclear-free status of Ukraine and on providing security guarantees for Ukraine are moving to a practical phase, and taking into account all the principles discussed today, Russian Defense Ministry, in order to increase mutual trust and create the necessary conditions for further negotiations.
Ukrainian negotiators have proposed the country is open to adopting neutral status in exchange for international security guarantees. This would mean Kyiv would not join military alliances or host military bases. The negotiators say a meeting between Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Russian President Vladimir Putin may happen if the talks in Istanbul are fruitful.
After today's meaningful discussion, we reached an agreement and proposed that the head of states would meet at the time of initiating the treaty by the foreign ministers, especially because at the time of initiating and confirming details of the treaty, it might be necessary to agree some political nuances and details.
Intensive consultations are underway right now, and some important issues, the most important of which is agreement on international security guarantee for Ukraine, because this agreement will be able to end the war as Ukraine needs.
The latest rounds of talks were held at Istanbul's Dolmabahce Palace and the adjacent Shangri-La Hotel. As talks went on, the first sign of some progress came from a tweet by the advisor of Zelensky. The tweet listed his country's concerns like ceasefire, humanitarian corridors that were being discussed. Russian oligarch Roman Abramovich and Ukrainian MP Rustam Umerov, who were victims of poisoning in an earlier round of talks, were also involved in the latest dialogue hosted by Istanbul. After more than a month of destruction, diplomacy could broker a breakthrough that puts an end to the suffering of millions. Bureau Report, India Today.